It's WSIC Radio. Happy Thursday. I hope everyone out there is having a great week. I am super excited about today's show as I am back. It is the third Thursday of the month, and we are here with Miss Erica Singleton from Professionals Beyond the Game. We're kicking off our Shine Bright Athlete Series. If you guys remember, every third Thursday of the month, we are now doing the Shine Bright Athlete Series, where I'm going to have my co-host with me, Miss Erica Singleton she's the Director of Communications, and she's joining me this morning, and we have an amazing guest with us that we'll introduce momentarily. But Miss Erica, how are you doing this morning? How are you and the team at Professionals Beyond the Game doing this week?
Hi, Tracy. Now, I think you spoke to me, but I can't hear you.
Oh, audio.
I can hear Erica.
I can hear you, Katie. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm so excited.
We are so
awesome.
excited to have
I'm
you.
glad I couldn't hear her either. I was like, I hope it's not just me.
I know.
Can you hear me
we're
now?
on, so let's go ahead. I mean, we know what we're talking about.
Yes. yes.
It has been amazing watching you interact with your athletes and really try to get them prepared for the next transition. I mean, that's what Professional Beyond the Game is all about. Providing smoother transitions in a world that oftentimes really only takes their sweat equity. It takes the athletes for what they're worth as far as what they can provide, but really don't prepare them for that next level. So we've been watching some of the programs that you've prepared for them recently, like talking about the Electoral College. Talk a little bit about why this is so important to you, helping them in this way.
Well, I think, as Tracy would tell you, having spent more years than I care to admit working on that sweat equity with our young people, somewhere along the way, whether it's through mentors or just people that are trusted advisors in my circle, really started to dig into that personal professional development side of not only myself, but what my responsibility is as a college basketball coach, to not just, make my post players better, but to make sure that at the end of the day, I know where they're going to go before that degree lands in their hand. And so it ended up being kind of a real intentional approach to preparing them, frankly, for much more after basketball than the actual basketball. And coming across just really great, energetic people in my circle, I'm naturally attracted to those folks that are as interested in developing our young people for post-graduation as I am. And so obviously a lot of things going on right now, and how do we spread the word, and what word are we trying to spread, and what are they going to listen to? How are they going to hear it? And, the election piece, just kind of stumbled across it. A friend of mine, Zach Cantor, who's the associate head women's basketball coach at Towson, he and I actually shared the same agent. We had the same agent. And so that's how I was first introduced to him when I was still coaching. And he had put together a Twitter feed. And I followed it, and I'm kind of a Twitter maven, and was just looking at the content he was doing. And I'd seen that he was doing a few presentations for other smaller institutions. So I just reached out. It's like, hey, what's up, Jack? How are you? What are you doing? And to the point of, we can have all sorts of messages, but it doesn't mean that the student athletes are necessarily going to hear it. Is how do you present important, vital information for their personal and professional development and success in a way that resonates and says, okay, this is pretty cool. Maybe I want to do this. And the way that Zach put together this presentation was like a basketball scouting report. Literally, it looks like a basketball scouting report. And he is all Northeastern. He's all that. I think he's a Pennsylvania native, maybe Philly, Pittsburgh. Maybe he sounds like he's got a heavy like Boston accent. He talks really fast, and he uses his hands, and he's like all hype about it. So when you see it on a Zoom call, this young man and this passion, and to explain the electoral process, it was like a civics lesson, but really cool. So I came from the little cartoon, I'm just a bill, I'm only a bill. Like,
right. We all love that one.
Right. I love that thing. I love that little
House Rocks.
Yes. Well, so this is kind of like the cool the cool like 2020 version of that. And
Okay.
so how he rolled it out, it was all about politics without being political. And I think in terms of getting athletic administrations and colleges and universities to latch on to bring this guy and pay this guy to present this information, is he was deeply committed to the education process on how this all works, because we all were taught it like in ninth grade. Don't know how many people paid attention. And so this was a revised version that was really fun and interesting, deeply customized in addressing colleges and universities. Kids are coming from all different states. So he explained it in a way that was, well, if Katie, you're from Wisconsin, this is what your process is going to look like. Erica, you're from Georgia, this is what your process is going to look like. And interestingly, even just the other day, he sent me a series of graphics involving the Georgia Senate race and what your Georgia student athletes and their responsibility is and what this looks like. You're not done yet. You still got another step to do, and here's why it matters.
So we have athletes who are always expected to be leaders on the court, in the field, in their field. But really part of what you're doing, do you feel like it's preparing them to be everyday leaders, just working out in their community and being more informed?
Yeah, no question. And I'll break it down like this. Going back several years, I had an opportunity to get into the classroom. So I was an adjunct at Lenore-Ryan University in the School of Business, myriad of just different marketing things. And it became clear, you have these young minds, and to your point, what are the steps to building their confidence and their acumen in things that matter to them? To say I want to develop a leader on the basketball floor, one, I've got to have a person that even wants to do that. If they don't know they want to do that, I've got to give them reasons and educate them on, here's what happens if you do this. Like these are the benefits of leadership, even in its smallest forms. And to the smallest form, the things that you and I were possibly exposed to, it could be as simple as, unfortunately, we can't do handshakes right now, but you'd be amazed, Erica, how many times I would make student athletes or my players, we're going to practice handshakes. Or you want to be a part of this community organization and you have to connect with its leadership. Practicing the phone call so that they can even connect with those organizations. You've got a cell phone in your hand. I have a banana. And we're going to practice in the office of you making your initial call to action with people. What I have found is taking away the judgment and taking away all of those things that says it's okay to not know how to do this. We're going to practice. We're going to practice. I think one of the biggest responsibilities of us in any position of leadership as we're growing young people is to set them up for success. Don't assume they know how to do it. And don't assume that they can't do it. Yeah. They just need some direction. And for the folks out there that will have their 2 cents about millennials and Gen Zs and all that kind of stuff, my rebuttal every single time is, have you ever sat down and talked to one of them?
Exactly.
I bet you'd find out they're pretty smart. And there's a lot of things that they know better than you do. So,
right.
Yeah.
Right. In preparing them, you have a plan, you work with them. And then in all things this year, those plans have kind of fallen to the wayside in so many different ways. And so part of what we're doing this year is really looking at those transition tales. So what is it and why is it vital? What's the next subject to really work with them on to prepare them as so much of their world is uncertain?
So I've kind of termed it, this is the season of opportunity. We talk about seasons in basketball or in football and things like that. And you guys talk a lot about the mental fitness side of things. It's really easy to sit back and just say, play the blame game. There's so many different things. I've got too many obstacles. The class of 2020, the college graduate class of 2020, deeply hamstrung in terms of their ability to find jobs in their fields, things like that. So what are you going to do? I'll share a story to give an example. Received a random email from a young lady. She just graduated from the University of Tennessee and somehow had gotten my name, hey, she wouldn't mind me mentioning her name. My name's Carrie, da, 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 da. I'd love to talk to you, get some advice. Of course. I'm like, yeah, heck yes. So we scheduled a call. Long story short, I said, well, what do you want to do? Where are you? Are you in Knoxville? And she said, well, no, actually I'm in Chesapeake, Virginia. My dad lives here and I'm having to live with my parents. And I said, okay, well, that's doubly interesting. She said, yeah, he's a dentist in town in Farmville. Okay. And so then of course my ears prick up and I said, we can help you fill this gap on your resume. I told her, I said, I can't pay you anything, but do you want to come? We'll custom out some projects. We'll give you project management opportunities. I can customize it on the things you love to do. We can talk about the things that maybe you're not so great, and we'll handhold you through the process. There's lots of things that I need done around here. She's been a fantastic intern, Erica. Unbelievable intern. Oh, in this, anytime again, going back to what are we doing right now, and these young people in the midst of this kind of pandemic crisis situation. If you find the kids that understand, here's what happens if you'll be resourceful. Here's what happens if you'll put your name out there. Is it going to maybe show up in a paycheck right now? Probably not. But you're going to get access to my cell phone. You're going to get all my contacts. I'm going to call every single person I know about you in regards to your industry. And so I think it's really spreading the word of creating opportunities for yourself. Is it going to be perfect? No, it wasn't perfect when we entered the job market and there wasn't a pandemic, so it does sting a little bit, but I think the more that we in leadership can alleviate the process of fear and introduce really, really energetic, positive ways for these young people to bridge the gap during this time, that gets them excited again, that makes them, same thing. I had a former women's basketball player. She's a comm major. I was on a panel for her communications class, and we always say, hey, reach out to me if I can ever do anything to help. 75% of them never do. And then you get the random ones that do, and then they don't follow up again. And so, Q follows up, and she's spearheading this completely random Bake Wars social media campaign for us with our men's and women's basketball coaches baking against each other. And she's running the entire thing. And the first thing she said to me, Erica, when we sat down and met, is I just said, well, how are you doing, Q? I've never met this kid before. She's like, I'm all right. She's kind of soft-spoken. And she said, it's hard to get up in the morning. She said, it's hard to get up in the morning. She's a senior. She's going to graduate in May. She doesn't know what she wants to do. She doesn't know how she's going to do anything. Her whole plans have been scrapped. And I said, okay, well, we got to come up with something that makes you want to get up in the morning. So we talked about the things that she loved. I talked about the things that I needed, and we kind of brought them together. And just to see her smile, the smile on her face when we've had our meetings, and for her to be motivated and be excited as she's seen this project come to fruition, that in itself is huge. We don't need life-altering huge changes right now. We just need a start.
Just to start. Yeah. We, and being able to connect with different people, pvtg.org, we're working with the Athletes Network, really trying to get athletes connected with each other as well. I think a lot of them feel like they're alone and isolated in these situations.
Can you guys hear me?
What are the vital subjects? Are you there, Tracy?
Oh, yes.
We're just running on without
This
you.
is perfect. I love it. This is a great example of pivoting and teamwork, right? Volume goes out on one side. Keep the game moving. I'm loving it.
I bet there's a lot of players out there that wish they could have muted their coaches.
Yeah. Exactly. But no, that is a great example of how life happens, right? Life happens. There are challenges that you face. You have to keep the ball rolling. So yeah, volume goes out on this side. Co-host takes over and makes the show keep going. Keep that going. Keep the energy rolling in that, because that's a true example of what we're faced with today. I love it. And I want to just jump in real quick, because Katie, you said something very powerful as you were kind of giving that example of the young lady you were talking to. What are some of the things that you're most proudest of these student athletes as you're seeing them kind of navigate this challenge, this transition, this change? I'm hearing just this spirit of mental resilience. That is what you're teaching. And like you said, not that they can't, but show them that they can. That's powerful.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because the thing that I've noticed, and you guys have been doing this long enough to know, when I look at the scope of about the last 2.5 decades and that mental resilience of generations that have come through, working with the Gen Zs, the mentality can be a little bit defeatist, is immediately mentioning, well, this isn't something I'm very good at. Well, I hope this, when I assign something, well, actually, I'm not really good at that.
Yeah.
If I was assigning it to you, do you think I'm good at it? Because otherwise I'd be doing it myself. is that, and I was just on a panel a couple days ago with a brilliant strength and conditioning coach here at Longwood, Courtney Tabron, and we were talking about mental fitness, and that positive self-talk is like a first line of defense in my mind, is immediately getting them to find celebratory moments in these little opportunities that we create. Young person wants to see, I've created an entire software system for a university. Okay, that's not really possible right now. A small project and me and my team celebrating these individual moments that ultimately are going to lead to the end, to that huge project, is that the small achievements are the best stories anyway. It's how you got to that point.
Yes.
It's the total disasters that take place as you're learning in the learning curve. And so it's my responsibility, to Tracy's question, to make sure that as we go through this process, celebrating the successes, but then also using my own experience, that when something doesn't go quite right, I don't talk about failure. People talk about constructive criticism. I talk about great opportunities and trying to flip just the verbiage that we use, but the amazing things that come from, well, let's talk about, like, why didn't that work? Or what was it about something that I did? And being able to provide some real life examples and connect with the young person, build the trust, so that they start to build that confidence. And I think that's one of the most important things, is that mental resilience gets a whole lot easier when you feel better about yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I was speaking with a healthcare professional last night who has started, actually, at the end of each day, no matter what it is, writing down something that not only she's grateful for, but that she felt good about. In November, a lot of people like to look at this month and talk about what they're thankful for. But each day she tries to find at least one thing and write it down so she can look at it tomorrow. If it was just that it was over 70 degrees or that the sun was out and it had stopped raining. She looks for something, because that little boost before she goes to bed, and then to look forward to something else the next day, has really been giving her something, like the young lady you said, to get up for in the morning.
Yep. Absolutely. Gratitude list.
Gratitude
Those are good ones.
list. And it's good. And for the communities that are listening to this, Professionals Beyond the Game, the Athletes Network, the students that are coming onto these platforms and communities, I think it's really good for them to hear that repetition and consistency is the biggest part of that. It's not what I can do just today that's going to build on to our future success. It's what we do every single day, creating a consistent routine and practice around something, just like we train.
Yep.
It's
Absolutely.
the same concept over and over and over again, and that helps you get up feeling better and better about yourself.
Yeah. The just talking the other day, that commitment to just the practice of when someone says, hey, if I can ever do anything to help you, let me know. Tracy, we were talking on the phone, and how I got connected with JP was through Eric Watson.
Yeah.
And how I got connected through Eric Watson was a friend of mine, Mike Delaney, who was with the NFLPA, who I'd met through like UNC football. And anytime, and to Mike's, he was on a panel for one of my classes. He said, hey, if you'd be interested in coming to an NFLPA luncheon, let me know. And I said, well, don't say it if you don't mean it, because I'm the person that's going to follow you up every single time. And he said, well, I wouldn't say it if I didn't mean it. And so it's one of the things that I always share with young people: follow up and take advantage. People don't say that in jest. They would just say, hey, it was really nice to meet you, period,
Yep.
and leave it at that.
Right.
And so in talking with these student athletes a couple nights ago, I I said, you've got to practice taking people up on that. You've got to practice putting yourself in a vulnerable situation, but understanding someone wouldn't offer up their assistance if they weren't interested in getting to know you and seeing you at your most vulnerable self. So I think all of that, it's no different than the first time you ever asked your coach, hey, coach, can you come up and rebound for me? Mm-hmm. I remember that being scary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But then the more you do it with anything, the better you get at it.
Yeah, it goes part and parcel. One of the things for our December show, we have a guest who kind of built her organization around the African phrase, or Ubuntu. It means I am because we are. And it's the idea that the community really builds everybody together. Her organization, I am, we are youth.org, really does that same type of thing, is really teaching young people on a global scale as well. They're based in South Africa, but to really get in there and make use of the opportunities and explaining to them what those opportunities are. Like, sometimes people really do think that's just, pleasantries.
Yep.
And you have to understand that they wouldn't have said it if they didn't mean it. You got to take them up on it in every situation. You're listening to a podcast and they tell you there's an opportunity here and you should go, or you're looking on social media and it says, apply for this. I saw the greatest thing the other day, which was don't say no for someone. Give them an opportunity to do it. Just apply for it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. No doubt.
That's powerful.
That's very true. And the other example that's so apropos, Erica, is that in the spirit of competition with these student athletes, to your point, the student athlete who decides to take up the person or the people on that advice, opportunity, suggestions, mentoring, what have you, is when you're going for the job, you could have everything could be held equal. And then when you look at the experience and just the worldliness that we gain by building relationships, that person's going to win. They're going to get the job 99% of the time. And if they don't, they're going to get it the second time, because the first person, maybe there was a name or something that was in the mix that helped position somebody. It's not as authentic. And so I think anything that I can twist with a student athlete that talks about competitive advantage, do you want to win? Okay, then this is what you're going to have to do to win. You're going to have to practice your interview skills. You're going to have to practice your handshake. You got to be good on the phone. All those types of things. Don't be in your pajamas on Zoom calls.
Right?
I love it. Ladies, we have about 2 more minutes left. And let's do a brief recap as people are just kind of listening. I love the things that you guys are dropping, the nuggets of not being afraid to put yourself out there. Put yourself in a position to win. Coming into the table with that mindset of what can I do? If you're afraid to do something, you probably need to do it anyway.
Do it afraid. Absolutely.
Do it scared. Just do it. So put yourself in position. Remember, repetition is key. What kinds of things can you be saying to yourself on a daily basis that gets your mindset in a place of positivity, of encouragement, and how you can reach out to others? Katie, I love that, just by saying not being afraid to ask for help, but also putting yourself in position where it's like, how can you be a support to somebody else, or how can somebody support you? That's huge.
Yeah, and my dad used to say that. He said, Katie, how many times have you ever asked for help, does somebody say no? Yeah. And I really honestly can't think of anything. And so I think it's that not being afraid. I'll just say this real quick to wrap it up. I'm in totally new industry, 20 years of coaching, not an administrator. I've only been doing it for barely a year. Had an opportunity to have a conversation with someone from a search firm. And I was trying to get to how do I be distinctive in the pandemic? I can't use my body language. I can't shake hands, can't use eye contact. And she said, be memorable, be quirky. She's like, market yourself, do something different. And so I didn't have this woman's address. All I had was an email address. So I couldn't send her a handwritten note and do what I normally do. So I sent her this really weird, bizarre bobblehead, or I took a video of a bobblehead and my thank you note. And I read it. I'm like, Katie, this is your thank you note. I had thank you songs playing in the background. It was so cheesy. I'm like, she's going to run away from me.
Well, we won't.
We
won't forget
15
you.
minutes later, she said, It's the best email I've ever gotten.
And this was a great, great interview. Thank you for your time. Ladies and gentlemen, Mental Fitness Matters, professionals beyond the game. We will see you guys next week. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving. And I want my Mental Fitness Matters community to go out and shine bright like the stars that you are. Again, as usual, we come down to the last minute. See you guys later. Joining us today on Mental Fitness Matters. Tune in every Thursday at 8:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. for more tips, tools, strategies, and solutions that will help you reach your peak mental fitness.